Donald Trump recently made headlines with his decision to pardon several members of far-right groups, such as the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. This decision has sparked significant controversy, as many see it as a troubling signal about the role these groups might play in Trump's political strategy and the broader landscape of American politics. In a recent interview, Trump was asked whether these groups, now free following their pardons, have a place in the political conversation. His response, "We'll have to see," has left many concerned about his willingness to normalize political violence and extremism. Trump defended his decision by calling the sentences of these individuals ridiculous and excessive. He highlighted one case where a man was given a lengthy prison term for taking down what Trump referred to as an anti-American flag. According to Trump, these were people who love our country, and he deemed their pardons appropriate. This rationale aligns with Trump's history of defending and amplifying extremist groups, framing them as patriots rather than threats to democracy. However, this perspective has sparked alarm among many observers who see the pardons as a green light for political violence. Mark, a political analyst, voiced his concerns in a recent discussion, stating that Trump's actions indicate a broader strategy to cultivate an extra-legal force outside the traditional mechanisms of power. According to Mark, Trump's approach mirrors tactics employed by authoritarian leaders worldwide. By pardoning individuals convicted of violent crimes, Trump not only rewards their actions, but also signals to others that such behavior will be protected and possibly encouraged under his leadership. Mark argued that this development is deeply troubling, as it raises the specter of a political environment where private citizens and militia groups are empowered to act as enforcers for Trump's agenda. One of the most concerning aspects of this situation is the potential for these pardoned individuals and groups to act as tools of intimidation. Mark pointed out that Trump's control over federal agencies, coupled with his willingness to pardon violent actors, creates a dangerous dynamic. For instance, Trump could subtly or overtly signal his approval for harassment or intimidation against political opponents or private citizens. This possibility extends beyond mere speculation, as Trump has a track record of using his platform to incite and embolden his supporters. Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, two Trump loyalists with significant influence, also play a critical role in this narrative. Bondi and Patel have been positioned as gatekeepers within Trump's sphere of influence, and their roles could extend to protecting individuals and groups aligned with Trump's interests. Mark explained that this dynamic creates a perfect storm, where Trump's immunity from prosecution, his absolute pardon power, and his control over the Department of Justice converge to shield his allies and punish his adversaries. This setup could enable Trump to interfere with investigations, direct law enforcement priorities, and grant immunity to those who further his agenda. The recent pardons also highlight the normalization of behavior that would have been considered unacceptable in previous administrations. Mark emphasized how Trump's actions have desensitized the public to the erosion of democratic norms. He cited Trump's infamous "stand back and stand by" remark during a 2020 presidential debate as a pivotal moment. At the time, the comment was widely condemned as an endorsement of far-right violence. However, in hindsight, it appears to have been a precursor to Trump's broader strategy of integrating extremist groups into his political movement. The potential for violence and intimidation to become normalized is a significant concern. Mark pointed to instances where armed individuals in body armor staked out ballot drop boxes during elections, describing these actions as deliberate attempts to intimidate voters. He warned that such tactics could escalate, particularly with Trump's implicit endorsement. By pardoning individuals who engaged in violence, Trump sends a message that these actions are not only acceptable but praiseworthy. The role of state-level actors in countering these developments is crucial. Mark argued that Democratic attorneys general and local prosecutors must take a firm stand against any violations of state law by militia groups or individuals seeking to intimidate others. Unlike federal crimes, state crimes cannot be pardoned by the president, making state-level enforcement a critical bulwark against the erosion of democratic norms. However, Mark acknowledged the challenges in Republican-controlled states, where prosecutors and governors might be less inclined to hold these groups accountable. The discussion also touched on the broader implications for democracy and the rule of law. Mark highlighted how Trump's actions have created a climate of fear and uncertainty, where many citizens feel disillusioned and powerless. However, he urged people to remain engaged and committed to the fight for democracy. According to Mark, the key to overcoming Trump's authoritarian tendencies lies in collective action and resilience. He emphasized the importance of standing up to Trump's bullying tactics and refusing to be intimidated. This sentiment was echoed in a discussion about the normalization of Trump's behavior. Mark pointed out how the media and political institutions have often failed to adequately confront Trump's actions. For example, Trump's public statements directing prosecutors to halt investigations into his allies have not received the level of scrutiny they deserve. Mark argued that this lack of accountability enables Trump to push the boundaries further, eroding the safeguards that protect democracy. Looking ahead, Mark expressed concern about the potential for violence and intimidation to escalate in the coming years. He outlined a progression from voter suppression to election subversion, and now to the normalization of political violence. This trajectory, he argued, represents a direct threat to the integrity of the democratic process. To counter this threat, Mark called for a multifaceted approach that includes legal action, public advocacy, and media accountability. The discussion concluded with a call to action for those committed to defending democracy. Mark urged listeners to support organizations like Democracy Docket, which focus on protecting voting rights and combating anti-democratic practices. He emphasized that the fight for democracy requires sustained effort and vigilance, particularly in the face of Trump's continued efforts to undermine democratic norms. By staying engaged and informed, citizens can play a critical role in preserving the principles of justice and equality that underpin American democracy.